Bhishma, Drona and Karna, along with the chief warriors on our side too, are rushing into your fearful mouths set with terrible tusks. Some caught between the teeth are seen with their heads crushed to powder. Until now, Arjuna is looking at the past and the present moment of the Vishwarup. From this verse, he begins to also see the future. We've already seen that the Vishwarup means that the place and time have come to one level. This is because our perspective is in seeing things having divided place and time. For example, here, there, and that place are divisions of place, and in the past, in the present, in the future are divisions of time. Therefore, our perspective is in seeing things having divided place and time. But over here, everything comes together at once. Arjuna uses the word anu again in this verse. We saw earlier that anu means that. Arjuna says that each and every one of the sons of Dhritarashtra, together with the host of gods and also Bhishma, Drona, Karna, along with the chief warriors on his side too, Arjuna says that the word Avanipala Sandhi Asaha, which can be split into Avani, earth, Pal, obeyers, and Sange Hisana, in communion with. Therefore, Avanipala means kings, and Avanipala Sange Hisana means those in communion with kings. Arjuna mentioned the Lord's mouths terrible like tusks in the last verse, and it is therefore telling the Lord that he can see these people entering into the Lord's mouths. All 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, together with those who have communion with all these kings, are entering into the Lord's mouths. Not only them, but also Bhishma, Drona, and Karna. Supaputra refers to Karna, and also the chief warriors of Arjuna's side. All of them are entering into the Lord's mouth. How are they entering into the Lord's mouth? They are rushing into the Lord's fearful mouth set with terrible tusks. This is what happened to all of them. Some caught between the teeth are seen with their heads crushed to powder. I said earlier that the whole description is that of the Ugraswarup, the terrible form, which Arjuna is seeing. This is a ferocious form of the Supreme Soul, and Arjuna is seeing this. After seeing this form, why did Arjuna not say to the Lord to be gracious? Would Arjuna not tell the Lord to be calm and only peace? Arjuna is seeing this form, but this is the future. Arjuna is seeing the death of everyone. All of them are entering into the mouth of the Supreme Soul. When one reads the sentence, and many times one feels that this is such a beautiful description, this tied to a description that we would not like to see. And even in this, we need the perspective of acceptance. We should have the ability, qualification, and strength to bow down even to this form of the Supreme Soul. Great saints have given a very nice example of Junaid, who became a Sufi fakir. Junaid would live in a town, and the whole town would give him adoration. Everybody in the town would come and touch his feet, would bow down to him and do everything. One time, Junaid did a prayer. He was sitting in meditation one morning and told God that, God, show me a human being who is the purest of all human beings in this town. I want to have a vision of the purest of all human beings. He was sitting in this way, and he got such an inspiration from his prayers that God said, your neighbor is the purest of all in this town. You go and touch his feet. He was given an inspiration that Junaid found this strange. He thought that my neighbor is a completely ordinary person. Nobody ever considers their neighbor to be great. This is a rule. In the villages of Saurashtra and Gujarat, it is said that no matter how great you become, no matter how fair you become, and no matter what you do, 3 people will never say anything good about you. Who are these people? Your wife, your neighbor, and your siblings. These 3 people will never say anything good about you. One's wife will never say anything good about them. No matter how advanced a person becomes, his wife says, that is fine, sit down because I know about them. Many people even say that if they're praising you and everything will finish, they say that it is because I do not praise you that you have come forward. Wow. But therefore the wife never praises the husband. Next to the neighbor. On one hand, people say that your first relative is your neighbor, but your neighbor never praises you. No matter if the whole world is praising you, your neighbor will say, I've seen from time to time and he was walking around in half shorts. But this person has changed as now wearing trousers. The neighbor keeps wearing the half shorts. The first is the wife, the second is neighbor, and the third are the siblings. If the siblings praise you, then you're very fortunate. But on the majority of occasions, this does not happen. Siblings even say that we know, therefore never have expectations of getting a certificate from any of these 3 people. If you have advanced in life, then never expect a certificate from them. Second, whenever we have to get an opinion about someone, then do not depend too much on the opinion that these 3 people give. And definitely do not depend on their opinions if they give a negative opinion. If someone says that the neighbor is fine, then consider that the neighbor only says this. Let's leave that matter. When Junaid was told that his neighbor is great, then Junaid found this strange. He thought that my neighbor is a very ordinary person and comes every day to touch my feet. How can I go to touch his feet today? And how can you be the purest of all pure people? A confusion arose in Junaid's mind, but it was the Supreme Soul's message and therefore Junaid went secretly because he was thinking, what will the other people in the town think of this? Because everyone in the town comes to touch my feet, yet I'm going to touch his feet. Nobody should know about this. Junaid went and touched his neighbor's feet. On the second day when Junaid was sitting in meditation, Junaid had the wish to tell something to God. He asked, Lord, I wish to have a vision of the most vile of vile people in this town. I want to see him. Show him to me. The Supreme Soul gave him the inspiration that is a neighbor. Go. He is the most vile of vile people, so go and touch his feet. Junaid thought that, Lord, since yesterday is not even been 24 hours, and you are saying that the neighbor is the purest of all pure people, so I should go and touch his feet. Now you are saying that the neighbor is the most vile of all vile people, and that I should go and touch his feet. Why is this? God said that you'll get the answer tomorrow. Today, go and touch his feet first. Junaid went there now because he had to go and wanted the answer. He touched his neighbor's feet because he was the most vile of all vile people, and then he came back. On the third day, when he was sitting in meditation in the morning, Junaid asked the Lord, Lord, why this? The Supreme Soul said, when you get to see the purest of the pure and the most vile of vile people both together at the same time, when you get the perspective of seeing this, and when you have the perspective of being humble towards both of them, despite of what they are, then you will get a true vision of me. This is because in this world, nobody is perfect. In each and every person, if you look at some people from some perspectives, then you see the nicest of all qualities in them, and if you look at them from other perspectives, then you see the worst of all qualities in them. Despite having these two things, we should accept them and bow down to them. This does not mean we should bow down to the 5.5 foot toy, but to the truth of God residing within them, and the truth of consciousness residing within them. Can you do this? Do you accept the world as it is? The moment where this state comes, in that moment, the peace becomes manifest in the human being's life, and the human being gets happiness. We must accept these things. The very same Supreme Soul that gives us stuff, and the very same Supreme Soul that looks after us, Arjuna has already said in this chapter that the Supreme Soul is the ultimate resting place of the world. That very same Lord destroys us, and destroys us in such a way that he is crushing us between his teeth and eating us. The Supreme Soul is also the destroyer. You kill those who you look after. This is the characteristic of fate. Maybe if there was one peak of the thoughts of Indian thinkers, then this is it. If you think about all the scriptures, religions, and schools of thought in the world, then two things come in them. They say that everything good that happens is done because of God, and everything bad that happens is done by demons and devils. They created two different powers. But it is only Indian rishis who have said that no, there's no doubt that God does the good that happens, but when that happens, bad happens, then God also does this. Whatever there is in the whole world is pervaded by the Supreme Soul. It is all God. This is because if you accept the power of the devil or own power of demons, then this means that even if God does good, then this person can do bad. And bad things happen in the world, this is the reality. If God is doing good and this person could do bad, then how much good God is doing becomes limited and God's power becomes limited. This is because they are saying that God is doing good on one side and God gives birth to the person and gives life to them for 70, 80 or 90 years, yet the devil comes for one day and kills that person. This would mean that the demon becomes so much more powerful than God that whatever good we are making efforts to do is being damaged by this bad activity of demons, and God cannot do anything about this. This would mean that God is sitting there watching all of this. No. Therefore, the acceptance of the power of demons is an acceptance of the limits of God's power. These people say that God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient, and yet they're saying the devil is there. If God is omnipotent, then how can the devil last? This is what Indian rishis say. That is that everything that happens in the world is being done by God. If bad things are happening, then yes, there's bad things of God. If one says that there's bad things are also being done by God, then this does not mean that they are lacking belief. It shows the greatness of their faith. This is a feeling of acceptance. This is a deep acceptance. What happens for this is that it gives us the strength to tolerate bad things. If a demon is doing wrong things, then the person feels helpless, that I'm such a poor person, what did I do? The demon is doing this. But if one has faith towards God, and knows that the same God who does good can also do wrong, then understands that the Supreme Soul must have a son that one cannot understand. By doing this, the person creates an ability in itself to tolerate sorrows. Our wishes are thought very deeply, and that is why they've said that whenever bad things happen, are being done by God. There's a poet by the name of Sagir, and I remember a pankti, a 5-line poem by him, showing the rule of this word. Are tare sheshvaso karete jindagi tunki, keje swasho netu leche, jivan aadar samjine. Or your own breaths are making your own life short, because the very breaths you are taking, you're considering your life to be dependent on them. This is a ghazal of his. Why do you take breaths? They are the support of our lives. If you breathe in, then you last. But when we breathe, the life does not last, but life is cut short. The rope keeps getting cut. The more breaths we take, the shorter our life becomes. Our very breaths are making our lives short because we are breathing, considering our breath to be the support of our lives. Arjun seeing that all of these people are entering into the Lord. All of them are entering into the Lord's fearful mouth set with terrible tusks. In what way? Arjun describes this using two examples in the next two verses. Verse 28.